Hello everybody, my name is Dratnos, and in today's video we're going to take a look at Dragonflight professions to answer the question, which profession should I play on my main character? Do I need to do anything special on that? And depending on what my goals are, how does that affect those decisions? And there are kind of two core factors that you need to consider alongside what kind of content do I want to do, which one is economic, right? Gold based, and the other is power level. Like, is there one that gives me my character a power level benefit? The answer to that latter question is actually somewhat murky in Dragonflight. There are not really the traditional like, oh, this profession gives me this benefit, this profession gives me this other benefit. There's however one small benefit that I have found for alchemy, which is hidden away in one of the alchemical specializations, decayology here. This, if you don't know what this is the kind of talent tree for professions. Every profession has this, and they have, well, all the crafting professions have this at least, and they have, bonuses that make it so you can craft more, you can craft better in various ways. But in alchemy in particular, there's this decayology thing, which at this point and this point give you the benefit of damage taken from the side effects of drinking toxic potions and phials is reduced by 25% and then an additional 25%. So 50% total less damage taken from drinking toxic potions and phials. This is the only like min-maxy thing that will affect your like combat power that I've been able to find for any profession. Alchemy does have the kind of traditional economic benefit of giving you longer phial duration as well. Dragon Isle's phials lasting longer, which, saves you money, saves you gold. But this is the only effect that actually gives you some kind of power from a profession. So alchemy for a main raiding character is a pretty compelling choice for that reason. That's something that I guess I would probably recommend. It's unclear if the toxic phials and potions are actually going to be all that good. Here's what some of them do. So for instance, the regular healing potion at full quality is 93k health. The toxic version is 186k health, but then you take the same amount as plague damage over 15 seconds. Now, if you're only taking half damage as plague damage over 15 seconds, we're actually talking about then the same total amount of actual healing on yourself, right? When you minus when you take away the damage done from half of this as a dot over 15 seconds, they both are going to end up healing you for about 90k, right? But, having both then as an option would be potentially valuable to like really top yourself, especially as a tank where you actually would maybe have use for filling your health bar by all of this amount, and then you'd be able to sustain yourself through the dot afterwards potentially. So that's one potion that I could see being potentially useful. Probably a minor thing to actually consider, maybe not even worth an extra keybind for a lot of players. There are also toxic phials. So phials are the flask replacement. You can see this one gives you a secondary plus another minor boon that rotates every 60 seconds. That one, pretty solid effect. Glacial Fury here, a damage proc that is increased when you first attack a new target. So it is a good AoE Mythic Plus kind of file. Static Empowerment, which gives you extra primary stat while you remain stationary, but if when you move, you lose the primary stat, you gain some speed instead, so something that would be good for DPS players potentially on fights where you could stay still. All of these are non-toxic files, and they're pretty good, and they cover a pretty wide variety of situations. There's some other ones as well. But there is this toxic one as well, which gives you an absolute boatload of crit, but after suffering 100% of your health and damage, you are instead afflicted by overwhelming rage for 15 seconds, so you instead means I think you lose the crit rating. And you take 25% of your health as damage over 15 seconds, after which point the cycle begins anew. Now, again, is this something that you would actually use in a progression situation over the other files? My guess is probably not, but if you were, then reducing the damage from 25% of your health over 15 seconds to 12.5% of your health would be valuable, right? That's more valuable than something you're going to get out of another profession. So for that reason, alchemy is, I think, something that you might want to consider if you're really trying to min-max, especially as a raider. There are some reasons to min-max as a Mythic Pluser that are different, however, which is the Court of Stars buffs. Now, this is a map that I found from a 6-year-old Reddit post of the different buffs that you can find in Court of Stars. and the different races, classes, and professions that can activate them, there has recently been a nerf to the engineering one, the engineer slash goblin slash gnome Court of Stars profession buff that no longer just deactivates and turns into training dummies, the Guardian constructs, but it will still make them deal reduced damage and periodically stun themselves, so still a valuable effect to get. The Blacksmithing Trap, which used to summon and then insta-kill a mini-boss, now does 10% of their health and makes them take 25% more damage. So still really valuable, but it's gone from, being super duper important to just really good. So looking at this thing, especially if you're planning to push really high keys, and especially if you're doing so with a static group, you are probably going to want to ensure that you have coverage of all or almost all of these. There's like the Shaman Inscription Skinning one is like a movement speed buff, so you probably don't need that. Most of the other ones, though, are pretty good, are usually worth grabbing. So this is something where, if you're a high-end M+er, you may want to coordinate with your group and make sure that you have these sorts of things covered. And even if you're not like a high-end M+er, but you're planning on doing a lot of keys, something that could break the tie for your decision at least could be not choosing a profession that you already cover, right? So for instance, hunters and blacksmiths both get to use the trap, right? So if you're playing hunter, I guess you probably wouldn't necessarily want to go with blacksmithing anyways, unless you were doing weaponsmithing, but because you can't use the armor, right? But like, just looking at this and not selecting a profession that you already have covered by your race or class, that could be something that affects your decision as well. So beyond that, what about crafting valuable gear for yourself? How much do you actually need either yourself or a guildie to have a guildie or a friend to have the profession that you need and to be like leveling into it and do, min-maxing it in order to get yourself good gear at the start of the expansion? This is a question that I'm not 100% on, but my understanding is that the crafting order system is pretty good for letting you get almost everything that you'd want with gold instead of needing to actually have the profession yourself. You will still need to supply the materials for the items, but there are some cases that I've heard of where you actually wouldn't want to use the crafting system, the crafting order system, because you would want a crafter that had specific stats or things going to guarantee you getting a high quality outcome. And in some cases, that might actually be pretty valuable, which means that there is some value within a guild in particular to coordinating. And if you are going to have people pursuing professions to the point of actually min-maxing them, making sure that you don't have two people in the same guild doing the same one. Otherwise, the big thing with that, I think, is just identifying early in the expansion what those cases are where you want to be careful of the crafting order system, and instead probably using trade chat to find somebody with the profession and using it that way instead to guarantee that you're going to get the outcome that you need. Because sometimes we're talking about like item level differences in crafted armor depending on how much skill people have when they're doing that crafting. So that is something to potentially consider, and especially if you're on an extremely low population server, if you don't want to interact with friends, guildies, or trade chat to craft your gear, but you still want to craft high-level gear, then making sure that you are of a profession that crafts the gear that you're interested in, there is certainly some benefit to doing that. Otherwise, I'd recommend just picking some gathering professions, actually doing like getting the gathering tools. Every profession has tools that you can like slot in to your profession, and there's stuff like that you can find that will make you better at that. And I believe that will be worth it for at least the first few weeks for gathering professions if you're on a main character that's going around the Dragon Isles a lot. And yeah, otherwise, if you are working on a profession, there's getting into these specializations, getting all the way through them requires this knowledge resource that can be earned from a bunch of different sources in Dragonflight that, you're going to want to be working on. So choosing between doing that and doing other things like leveling other alts is going to be something that my guess is for super high-end players, the alts is going to be a better use of time. But if you're somebody who wants to profit off of those high-end players instead, you may instead benefit from focusing on being being a high-end blacksmith or leatherworker or whatever on your server, and you may be able to make quite a lot of gold in these early months as a result. Again, the economic side is not something that I am super confident making predictions about. I just wanted to go through the min-maxi side of things. In addition to the Court of Stars, there is, I think, also potentially an Azure Vault, do we have Dragonflight Season 1? Yeah, Mythic Plus Dungeons. In Azure Vault, there's potentially an inscription buff as well, where you can, like, turn one of the traps against the enemies instead. So maybe worth having a scribe in your group as well. Maybe Drakthir can do that too, I've heard. There are some other profession effects in Dragonflight M Plus dungeons, but they're concentrated actually in the 4 that are going to be in next season, which Brackentide Hollow, Halls of Infusion, Neltharis, and Uldaman, I think all have profession effects. But of the ones that are in Season 1, it's only Azure Vaults, I think. So there may be some more, shuffling around your professions for M+, if you're trying to do really high-end M+ next season as well, based on what these dungeons reward you for doing. But for now, it's mostly just the Court of Stars thing if you're looking to min-max on professions, which I think is annoying because I'd rather actually just focus on professions as on their own benefit rather than looking at that map, especially if I'm trying to push like with a group. I'd really rather not have that be so much of a thing, but it's okay. You just do the professions on your alts instead if you are going to spend enough time on them, which I probably will. So yeah, that's what Dragonflight professions look like at least from my perspective now. Again, there's potentially information that I have either missed or isn't available yet. If there's anything that you know about that is relevant to this discussion, definitely put it in the comments below, and check down there before acting based off of this video, because if there is something that makes something that I've said in here irrelevant or obsolete or something, hopefully everybody will thumbs up it down below. It'll be one of the top comments, one of the first things you'll see, and you can avoid making a catastrophic mistake. Hope this video was interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.